www.DESIblitz.com.
Hello, I'm Sudha Bhuchar and you're watching me on DESIblitz.com.
Hello, this is Kristine Landon-Smith and you are watching me on DESIblitz.com.
As one of the forming partners of Tamasha, can you tell us briefly how it all started?
Well, basically, Kristine and I were friends. You know, we'd met at Tara Arts Group, both as actresses. And then Kristine had been to the National School of Drama in Delhi, and she had adapted Mulkraj Anand's novel Untouchable. So she showed me the video when she came back, and I thought this would be great done in Britain. And that's how we started, really.
What was the concept behind Tamasha?
I think we were sort of recognising a lack of contemporary stories on the British stage, which were stories of the Asian diaspora. And so we set up Tamasha to produce these stories in a sort of British theatrical context.
From the days of presenting on BBC's network East to acting in EastEnders, your career has had some major highlights. What has kept you going?
Sheer endurance, I think, has kept me going. No, I've been very, very lucky that, you know, once I found acting by accident, really, and it was because we watched Tara Arts perform and met Jatinder Verma, and he invited us to come, and so that's how I kind of found acting, you know, in a roundabout way. I've just been really privileged, I think, to have some very interesting jobs, and then from the lows, you know, when I thought, oh, life was getting a bit boring as an actor, it's made me kind of take the bull by the horns and start writing. You know, I wrote with my other actress friend Shaheen Khan. We wrote a series called Girlies. So I feel like I've had a nice varied career, and what keeps me going really now is, you know, to see 21 years of Tamasha and how we've endured, and the stories that we've brought to the stage which other people are not doing, the sort of what's the word for it, the springboard that we've been for talent. You know, people have literally changed their lives, like Ayub Khandin, Abhijat Joshi, who did his first play with us and is now a Bollywood writer, Paminda Nagra, Jimmy Mystery, you know, so I think it keeps you going, that you're making a difference.
Tell us about your career briefly in Tamasha.
Well, I began as an actress and worked for many years for various companies. And I started directing in my late 20s. And as a matter of fact, I went to the National School of Drama in Delhi on a teaching post. And when I was in Delhi, I directed a adaptation of a very classic Indian novel, Untouchable, by Mulkraj Anand. And when I came back to England, I showed Sudha the video of my production that I did at the NSD. And she thought it was a great piece of work that actually we could produce in this country. So making that first show, Untouchable, was the beginning of Tamasha, and 21 years later, here we are.
Tell us about the time when Tamasha commissioned East is East.
Well, Ayub Khandin, who wrote East is East, is a very good friend of mine. In fact, he, myself and Shaheen had been at Tara Arts together as actors. So we were doing some new writing workshops with the Royal Court Theatre, and I knew about East is East because before that, while we were at Tara, we'd done a reading at the Albany Empire. And then it was just a series of sketches about Ayub's life. And, you know, they were so funny, and I played the sister all those years ago. And so I always remembered that. And he was unemployed as an actor, so I said to him, come on this workshop, you can write. And he was very much like, no, everyone's rejected East is East. But somehow he got convinced to get it out, and, you know, we all realized it was something special.
What are your favorite Tamasha plays?
It's very hard to pick a favourite because I think, we do a very broad range of work. So we make work in very different ways. So, for example, our recent Bollywood musical, Wuthering Heights, was a great joy to work on because it was in the musical theatre genre. We then did a marvellous piece called Trouble with Asian Men, which was made from verbatim interviews that we collected, and again making that show in a very different way was also quite thrilling. Tainted Dawn we made in the rehearsal room, adapted from short stories. Child at the Divide, which Sudha wrote, was a play for young people. So in a way it's very hard to choose a favourite because each work is so different.
What are the three things that make Tamasha Theatre unique?
I mean, I think we're a place where British Asian artists can feel that they are themselves without having to explain themselves. I think the stories that we tell are unique. You know, I think as a writer, everything I work on in Tamasha, I know that I'm telling something that no one else is telling, you know, and I feel that, so that makes it unique. And I think the fact that it's run by two friends who are still talking to each other for 21 years later makes it unique.
What are the challenges in running Tamasha?
You know, it's very hard to run a company. I mean, we produce a lot of work, but we're still quite a small company. We do get subsidy from the government, but these shows are very expensive. We spend a lot of our time fundraising. When we first started Tamasha, Sudha and I, you know, we're actresses and we had to learn on the job how to become businesswomen, how to run a company, how to raise funds, how to publicise the work. So I think the learning on the job and making the art, which we're still doing, we're still producers, but we're also still the artists. It's a very time-consuming. I mean, very rewarding, but it's very, very time-consuming. And I think the landscape in which we operate is a very, very tough and very competitive, and in a sense, getting tougher.
Have you got any inspirations, or who are they?
My inspirations, I mean, I've got a lot of inspirations. It's very hard to kind of say. You know, obviously someone like Jatinder Verma, who was the first person I met, who made you realise that there were other journeys to life other than maths and sociology, which I was studying. But, you know, now I'm, you know, totally inspired by a lot of theatre that I go to, writers that I admire, you know, all the literature from the subcontinent, writers like Rohinton Mistry. I love Alan Bennett. You know, it's very hard to say. I mean, I like a lot of theatre writers.
How do you choose your new productions?
Ideas come up in a very random way. Balti Kings was, I had been working in Birmingham for BBC radio at Pebble Mill, and sort of did, you know, we did a lot of Tamasha productions on the radio, and sort of would come up and we'd, you know, always go and have a Balti. And one day we were sitting in the restaurant and we said, hey, why don't we do a show set in a Balti house? So they come up in very, very random ways. It's funny, when you sort of sit and think of ideas and you have meetings and you brainstorm ideas, often the really good ideas don't come in that moment. They just come in a very sort of unpredictable ways.
What do you think are the pros and cons for Brit Asian actors today versus the past?
I think today, you know, young British Asian actors have got a lot of role models, you know, whereas when we were starting there were very few role models. When we were starting we had the generation of Saeed Jaffrey and people to look up to. And, you know, yes, they had quite a lot of highlights, you know, in the sense that they had a show in the West End, but there were still very few people. Whereas now, you know, there is an industry. So young actors do think, well, I can go to Hollywood, you know, I can go to Bollywood. But actually they do find that they're still having a lot of knocks of being from a minority, you know. So I think the challenges are still there.
What tips would you give to budding Brit Asian actors?
What tips would I give? I think what Ila Arun said was really apt, which is don't be in a hurry. You know, enjoy the journey and not think of the destination, because you don't have to reach it tomorrow. I think a lot of them do think, oh, this isn't, you know, in one play I'll be discovered and then I'll be sitting in LA. So I would absolutely echo and say, you know, think about the craft rather than the stardom.
What is the future of Tamasha?
I mean, I think we've always tried to sort of grow the organisation, and we continue to want to do that. I mean, Sudha and I have been here for 21 years. I mean, at some point we will move on and pass it on. I mean, I think we've built, you know, Tamasha is a production company, but we're also a training organisation. We do a lot of training for emerging artists of many disciplines, and I think we're trying to always grow the pool of British Asian artists who are working in this country, who get not so many opportunities still. So I think before we, you know, move on, we want the organisation to be as strong as it possibly can be, so that there is a very strong legacy for the future.